Hello, and welcome back to StoryWhisper. Tonight, we're going somewhere a little further than before. Not a shop on a hidden street or a garden tucked behind a bookshelf. Tonight, we're going somewhere that moves. Get comfortable, dim the lights, if you can. Pull a blanket close. And let's begin. There is an inn that follows the road. Not in a dramatic way, but it doesn't roll on wheels or float or shift overnight in a way anyone could point to and say, there, it moved. It simply appears. Wherever the road goes, wherever weary travelers find themselves at the end of a long day, they sometimes round a bend and find it there, waiting. It looks different each time. Different people. Some see a wide, low building with a thatched roof and ivy climbing the walls. Others see a tall, narrow place with many windows, warm light pouring from every floor. Others see something smaller, more modest, a single room and a fire and a kind face at the door. The inn shows you what you need. Not always what you expect, but always what you need. Tonight, it appears at the end of a long dirt road, where the path curves gently through a dark forest and the trees thin, just enough to let the moonlight through. The sign above the door reads, "The Wanderer's Rest. All roads lead here eventually." There's smoke rising from a wide chimney. The windows glow amber and gold, and faintly from somewhere inside comes the sound of music, a single instrument, low and warm, playing something slow and unhurried. The door opens before you reach it. Inside the inn is exactly as warm as you hoped it would be. A great fireplace dominates one wall, its fire burning steady and orange, casting long, soft shadows across the low-beamed ceiling. Mismatched chairs and tables fill the room. No two quite the same, as though the inn has collected them over centuries of travel. One chair from here, one table from there, each with its own quiet history. The smell is wood smoke, and something savory simmering somewhere. A pot on a back stove, perhaps, filling the whole space with the kind of smell that makes you realize you've been cold for longer than you knew. And the music, closer now. A lute played softly in a corner by a figure you can barely make out in the dim light. Head bowed over the instrument, fingers moving slow and sure across the strings. The innkeeper comes from somewhere in the back, wiping her hands on a cloth tucked into her apron. She's small, but carries herself with the quiet authority of someone who's managed a great many difficult situations with very little fuss. Her hair is red, shot through with silver, pinned up loosely. Her eyes are bright and observant, the kind of eyes that notice things without making you feel noticed. "Traveler," she says warmly. Come in, come in. You look like you've been on the road a long while." She doesn't ask where you've come from or where you're going. This, you'll come to learn, is the inn's way. It doesn't ask questions, it simply receives you wherever you are in your journey. "There's a chair by the fire," she says, "and supper won't be long." The chair by the fire is deep and wide, with arms you can rest your elbows on, and a back tall enough to lean your head against. A cushion, slightly worn but very soft. A footrest, positioned exactly right. You sink into it. The fire crackles softly, shifting and settling. The music in the corner continues its slow, wandering melody. The kind of tune that doesn't seem to go anywhere in particular, but feels right exactly as it is. Other guests sit at the tables nearby, speaking in low voices. You can hear the murmur of conversation without making out words. Just the soft sound of people at rest. People who have arrived somewhere safe and are letting the road fall away from their shoulders. The innkeeper returns with a bowl of something warm. Soup, thick and fragrant, with bread on the side, the crust golden and still faintly warm from the oven. She sets it on the small table beside your chair. Eat if you're hungry, she says. Rest if you're not. Luin doesn't mind either way. She lingers for a moment, glancing toward the fire. You know, she says half to herself, every traveler who comes through that door has a story. Some tell them willingly. Some keep them close. She smiles. But the inn remembers all of them, every single one. She settles into a nearby chair, unhurried, as though she has all the time in the world, which here she rather does. Let me tell you about one, she says. A traveler who came through on a night very much like this one. His name was Aldric, and he arrived at the inn in the middle of a rainstorm, soaked to the bone, carrying nothing but a small worn satchel, and an expression of someone who had been walking for a very long time, without knowing quite where they were going. The inn appeared to him as a low stone building, lights in the window, smoke from the chimney. Nothing grand, but to Aldric, who had been walking through rain for 3 days and sleeping under trees, it might as well have been a palace. He pushed open the door. The warmth hit him like a wave. "Come in," said the innkeeper, a different face then, but the same bright eyes, the same unhurried manner. "You're just in time." Aldric was, by trade, a mapmaker. He had spent 20 years drawing the roads of the known world. Every path, every lane, every track through every forest, committed to paper in his careful, precise hand. He knew roads the way other people knew their own names. And yet somehow he had managed to get thoroughly lost. "Not the roads," he explained, sitting by the fire, his wet coat steaming gently on the rack nearby. "I know where I am on the roads perfectly well. It's just, I don't know where I'm going anymore, and I've been a mapmaker long enough to know that those are two very different problems." The innkeeper of that time, an older man, broad and slow-moving, with a gray beard and a habit of listening with his whole body, nodded at this. "Maps," he said, "tell you where the roads go. They don't tell you which one is yours." Aldric looked at him. "No," he said, "they don't." He stared into the fire for a long while after that. The rain drummed on the roof, steady and persistent. The other guests came and went, their quiet conversations washing over him like water. He stayed 3 days. On the first day, he slept, more deeply than he'd slept in months. The kind of sleep that feels like falling into something soft and dark and very, very still. On the second day, he sat by the fire and drew. Not maps, or not maps of roads anyway. He drew the inn with its mismatched chairs and its low beams and the fire that never seemed to burn down. He drew the faces of the other guests, quick sketches capturing something in each of them. The set of their shoulders, the way they held their cups, the particular quality of their tiredness. He drew the innkeeper, who laughed when he showed him. "I've never been mapped before," the old man said. "Everything worth finding deserves a map," Aldric told him. On the third day, he sat outside on the inn's small porch as the rain cleared, watching the road dry in the morning sun. The forest on either side of it steamed gently, releasing the stored rain back into the air. The road went 2 ways from here, left back the way he'd come, familiar, known, already drawn on a dozen of his maps, right toward somewhere he hadn't been yet, a blank space on his charts, unknown territory. He sat there a long time, his mapmaker's eye tracing both directions. The innkeeper brought him tea, set it down beside him without a word, and went back inside. When Aldric finally left, in the morning of the 4th day, satchel repacked, coat dry, feet rested, he went right. He didn't know what was down that road. He had no map for it, no notes, no prior accounts from other travelers. Just the road itself, drying out after the rain, winding away into the trees. He paused at the turning, looked back at the inn once. The innkeeper was in the doorway, the same unhurried expression, the same bright eyes. "Will I find what I'm looking for?" Aldric called back. The old man considered this for a moment. "I expect," he said finally, "that you'll find something better. You'll find what you didn't know you were looking for." The innkeeper settles back in her chair, the fire casting warm gold across her face. "He came back years later," she says. "Different road, same inn. It always works out that way, eventually. He had a whole new collection of maps by then. Roads no one had drawn before. Places no one had thought to look for." She glances at you, smiling gently. He said the best roads were always the ones he hadn't planned, the ones he turned onto without knowing why and only understood later. She's quiet for a moment, watching the fire. "The inn remembers all of them," she says softly. "Every traveler, every road they chose, every map they made along the way." The music in the corner has slowed even further now, the lute player barely moving. fingers drifting across the strings in long, unhurried sweeps. The melody wanders, doubles back on itself, then finds its way again, easy and unhurried. The fire crackles softly, settling lower. Outside, the night deepens, the forest quiet, the road empty and silver in the moonlight. Other guests have drifted to their rooms. The murmur of conversation has faded to nothing, leaving only the music and the fire and the soft sound of the inn breathing around you. The innkeeper rises, collecting the empty bowl from the table beside you, moving quietly so as not to disturb the stillness. "Your room is ready," she says softly. "Whenever you are. No rush, the fire will keep burning." She pauses at the edge of the firelight. "You know," she says very quietly, "you don't have to know where you're going yet. The road will still be there in the morning. It always is." She smiles once, then disappears back into the depths of the inn, her footsteps soft, fading, until the only sounds left are the fire and the music and the distant, quiet night. The lute player in the corner plays on, slower now, each note resting a little longer in the air before the next one arrives. The melody has no destination, and it doesn't need one. It simply moves and rests and moves again. The fire settles into a bed of warm embers, glowing steadily, in no hurry to go out. And the inn holds you the way it has held every weary traveler who ever found themselves at the end of a long road, not quite knowing what came next, gently, warmly, without asking anything of you at all. If you're still awake, that's all right. There's no rush here. The road will still be there in the morning. It always is. And if you've drifted off already, well, that's all right too. The inn doesn't mind. It's used to travelers who stay a little longer than they planned. Good night. Sleep well. I'll see you next time on Story Whisper.